Hey, welcome everybody. This is Brian McLogan, and I'm going to go live for a open Q&A on this session. I had some talk that I wanted to, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to do a Q&A session for on this Sunday. Keep things a little bit shorter. So if you do have some questions, feel free to add them into the chat, or you can also go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A if you have any math questions. Let me go ahead and put that on there just so therefore you guys can have the link if you have some math questions, which actually I didn't even check. So let me go ahead and do that. But if you have any other general questions, then you guys can feel free to go ahead and add them on. Say, hey, Karam. Hey, Caleb. Hey, Shamcha. Good to have you. Sahil and Lucy. Thank you guys for joining on the live stream. If you have any questions, anything about your classes, or if you have any math specific questions, then feel free to go to brianmclogan.com. But I'll just kind of keep a normal session. One thing I always like to pride myself on is I think I've been doing these live streams for over 3 years now, and every single Sunday. So a lot of times I used to do them at 9 o'clock, then I moved them up to 8, and then I've been kind of doing them at 1. Today we had some things going on, so I was like, all right, I'll go back to I'll do a 3 o'clock, which I did for a while as well. So, sometimes just the schedule works out, sometimes it doesn't. So I just wanted to make sure that I could find a time that I could be here for you guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in. And let me go ahead and check the Google form and see if I'm going to be doing any math questions for you guys, because I forgot to check that before I go on. Usually a lot of times I like to go and see what math questions we're going to be doing, see if we have anything to go on or to cover. And then I will try to do my best from on there. So easy way to study before a big test. Let's go ahead and so Katie says, easiest ways to study before a big test. Well, I think the main thing when you want to study before a big test is to try to space it out. I think probably around like 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks being the max, and at least a week being like the minimum that you'd want to kind of focus in on. And I think just kind of going back, reviewing your tests, your quizzes, or tests, whatever like mini assessments that you've had prior to that, your homework, and just making sure going through the motions, going through practicing problems that you understood how to do, or ones that were like you were a little bit tricky on. I really think it, rather than just like reviewing them in your brain, but actually going through practicing the problems and making sure that you can get those problems like correct, that you have the answers to like verify. I think going through the motions is one of the biggest things that you can do to help prepare for a test. So I would just go back through, like I said, problems that you've already done on homework and tests and quizzes, and just kind of use that. Maybe your teacher might have provided you with a study guide. You can use those as well, or you can look for outside assessments to help you kind of further your studying that way. But I think that's a really good way to kind of start. And then there's definitely some other techniques, I've talked about, when you have a test coming up that, creating like a cheat sheet and using that. But I think the main thing that I want you to follow up with is like the night before the test should not be a cram session. That should be like a relax session, just kind of getting yourself mentally prepared for the test, right? So you want to make sure that you are spacing out your studying. So therefore, you're not going to have to do any last minute cram, because that's never going to work out very well in the long run. So there's any advice for succeeding math in college? Well, it's kind of tough because if you're going into a math field, you really got to make sure or something like you got to make sure you're knowing what you're doing, right? And if you're not going to a math field and you just need to like pass that one class, it becomes a little bit different. You really just want to kind of make sure that you are doing what needs to be done based on the guidance of your teacher or your professor. So therefore you can get the necessary grade that you need and kind of move forward. But sometimes the reason why I have that as a little bit different is like if you're going into a math field, you're going to be taking multiple math courses. Your grade is not, I think, the most important. I think the most important thing is that you're understanding that information. And I remember one time when I took Calc 1, I ended up getting a C one of the semesters. And I remember my mom was like, I want you to, retake this course, because if you want to become a math teacher, you should not be getting a C and then moving on, especially for an important course like calculus. But I was able to review the material, review why I got that C, and spoke with my mom about it. And I was like, I understand the information. I got the C because of the grading policies of the teacher. And, like I got a couple problems wrong. And that was like, I knew what I got wrong. I shouldn't have, they were mistakes, but I'm like, because I got these problem wrongs, I got low grades on these two tests. That's what brought down my grade. But I'm like, I understand the content and everything else. And my mom was a little hesitant, but she was like, okay, I understand your reasoning with that. And then I moved on to Calc 2. And I think for Calc 2, I was able to get like B's, throughout. So I think sometimes we put so much weight on the grade, but the grade doesn't always tell you the whole story as far as your understanding. There's definitely students that have had A's that don't have a really good understanding of the material. And I've had students that have gotten C's and D's, but actually had a really good understanding of what we were doing. They didn't, the grades just didn't match up exactly with their knowledge. So I think if you're going into a math field, I think it's just really, really important to make sure that you, for succeeding, is really making sure that you understand the content. And if you don't feel like you're understanding the content, getting help, making sure you get help, making sure that you're feeling comfortable with the material to be successful. And if you're not going into that, you just need the grade to pass. Well, then, make sure that you're following what the teacher, professor is seeking. So therefore you can get the most points with the least amount of struggle for that course, because we all know a lot of times people are taking, a math class and they're like, I'm not going to math. I just need to get this grade. Well, do what you need to do to get the grade. Have you considered joining band? Well, not a legit band, but when I was in middle school and high school, I was in my band. I played the slide trombone, which you guys can see right behind me. I actually still have it. I painted it red, white, and blue because I was a little bit of a rebel back in the day. So, because I didn't have to play in the marching band once I got into high school because I was always playing football. So the only time I got to play my trombone, or at least that trombone, was when we did the Memorial Day parade. So that's why I kind of had a red, white, and blue. That's why I painted red, white, and blue, because when I was in the concert and the symphonic band, I played the bass trombone. So I had another trombone I had to play. So I never really only time I ever played that in high school was for the Memorial Day parade. How do you understand math in a philosophical way? I don't know why I can't talk. May not just as numbers and equations. Philosophical. Yeah, I couldn't talk. I think that's a really tough question to answer. I think one comes in the way that we teach math, and sometimes how people interpret it. People are going to understand and interpret math differently. So I don't think there's a one size fit all answer or way to teach math for everyone. I think the main thing that I can maybe contribute to this question would be, if you're always trying to just learn things in from one standpoint, that is a lot of times that's going to restrict you on your understanding of a certain concept or in course. So I think one of the important things is when you want to to be successful in life, just a broad statement, I think we can say that the more you're exposed to different skills and getting better at different things, rather than just focusing in on one thing and just doing that the whole time. But I think the more you're exposed to a variety of skills and what was the word I was thinking of? Knowledge, then I think you just have a much more broader understanding, or it allows you that ability to adapt and to understand things in different concepts or from different vantage points. And I think that's the same thing with math. If we're always only approaching math in maybe direct instruction or through one textbook or from somebody that is teaching it one way, it could be somebody online or anything else. I think the more that you can have different ways to approach the understanding in the math, I think the better that you can get a philosophical understanding of how things are connected. So what that would mean was just don't rely on learning something one way. I love watching other people teach math because a lot of times the way that they teach it is not the way that I would teach it, or they don't take that same approach. And that has helped further my understanding of math concepts throughout my whole time with math, learning and seeing how other people do things. So, sometimes we need something very direct and very simplistic to understand it. But then sometimes we don't get the full deep understanding until we've seen it many different times in different ways. So I'm not sure if that fully on the head addresses your question, but hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of help insight for there. I'm studying precalc. Are there any shortcuts when it comes to remembering how to approach rational functions, fractions with different polynomials? Yeah, I mean, the biggest shortcut that you want to do with rational functions is factor, 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 factor. So I think if the stronger that you are at factoring, the easier it is to be able to understand and apply all the operations, or have a good understanding of rational functions or rational expressions. So factoring is the biggest one. That is not really a shortcut because you have to work to factor. But if you're really, really good at factoring, that is going to make your life a whole lot easier for rational expressions. How do you know if a graph is collinear? I'm not sure. I don't think a graph can be collinear. Collinear would be like collinear points, meaning they both lie on the same line. So like 2 points lie on the same line, they are called collinear points. I'm not sure what you really mean by a graph of collinear or what you're trying to represent with our question for that. Oh my God, Brian, huge fan. My question is, how do I stay on top of my calc classes? Also, could I get more practice questions? Yeah, I mean, I don't have like a question bank for calculus, but I think, to stay on top of your questions, to stay on top of your class, I think you've got to be doing math every day. When I was in college, there was always the option to take calculus or, any math class, Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Tuesday, like Thursday, Friday, or something like that. So you could do the 2-hour, 2-week, twice a week for like an hour and a half, or you could do like the 45-minute, like 4 days a week. And I always chose the 4 times a week. It's just easier to stay consistent at shorter periods of time. I have like ADHD. I cannot like sit there and focus for an hour and a half. So I always took that shorter class when it was an opportunity. And I think that's just really important whenever you're studying or just trying to learn. I think the more immersed you can be with the content, just doing something consistently over and over, the easier it is for you to, 1, stay on top of the class, and then 2, to be able to digest the information. Hey, Araf, good to have you on. Brian, baby, I love the bald head. Well, thank you. Why he stopped the live? It better still be going on. I don't know what you're talking about. I've always surrounded myself with people who have goals. This has helped me achieve a lot academically. I recently moved to Florida. Well, welcome. I'm in Florida, and the people here are complete opposites. What should I do? I'm not sure what you mean by the people here. I mean, maybe the people you surround yourself with. But I mean, I think in any country or any state, you're going to be able to find people that you want to find like-minded people that are going to push you, right? So if you're in the wrong group of friends, or if you've only, met certain people that are not pushing you or making you stronger, then I think you just need to maybe step out of your current circle and try to seek for people that are going to, going to push you, that you're looking for, that are goal-oriented. There's people all over the world that are goal-oriented. So I think just, if you recently moved, it might be a little bit difficult to find the right friends or the right circle. And I think you just need to keep on like connecting with people, and you'll find a group that's going to push you. You're going to find a group that's going to make you better. So I think that's definitely something that is available to you, but just keep going after it. It is okay, but I'm probably not going to answer it. I haven't taken differential equations in years, so it'd be something that my explanation would not be on point for me to. It'd take way too long to kind of go back and remember the information. So I'm sorry, don't really handle much more calculus topics. I got to go back through a lot of that curriculum to feel that confidence again, or just to even remember the material. Same thing with the shell and washer. I mean, I taught it when I taught in calc, but it's been so many years ago. It'd be something I'd have to go back and review before I can help. Before I could feel like I would giving you an explanation that'd be very helpful for you. Is studying math every day 2 hours good enough to prepare your quiz or test? That okay? I mean, I think it depends. I mean, 2 hours could be too much, to be honest with you. I mean, some people don't need 2 hours. Some people don't need an hour. I think it really is person dependent on what you need and required. And by you mean studying, like, what does that mean? Does that mean practicing math problems for someone? Does that just mean like reviewing your notes? I don't want to stick with it on a time period. I think you just need to focus in on like being consistent, which is good, doing it consistently, like breaking it up at certain periods of time every day. I think that's good. But the amount that you need to spend is going to be really dependent on what you're trying to achieve and how you kind of learn. I mean, some people can do it for 15 minutes. Some people might do a couple hours. But I think there's going to become a point where you just spending time doing math or study math is going to wear off. So you want to kind of find that optimal time where you can put in the work and you're going to get the most out of it by not doing something that you can't be consistent on, right? 2 hours a day for every day is a long time. And that might be too much time where you can do it for a while, but then you're just going to get sick and bored of it and you're going to stop. And we don't want you to do that, right? So find something that is consistent that you can do and stick with it. Flashcards, good for math practice or Quizlet or making your own practice tests. Yeah, I think there can be a place for it. I don't love flashcards for like everything. Or I think it's needed in everything. Like when you're trying to learn from math, like I always tell my students, I don't really like memorizing things. I want you to be applying things, and that's how to stick in your brain. So when you're doing visual, like flashcards, I mean, mostly that's just going to be like that visual memory, right? It's not going to stick. And obviously I don't think there's much of a benefit if you're just having things that you're going to remember for a couple of days or maybe a couple of weeks, but then you're going to completely forget. I'd much rather you apply the information and have a solid understanding of it than just using flashcards for something you're going to forget, quickly down the road. However, in the same breath, I do think for kind of like going through the motions and keeping things fresh in your brain, I think definitely, you can use flashcards or Quizlet to kind of help you kind of go through a lot of information, quickly. How do I get over the fear of learning inferential statistics? I never taught inferential statistics, or I don't think took it. But when you talk about fear, we can just take fear with any math class. Like, what are you fearing? Fearing like getting a bad grade, fearing not understanding it, fearing of feeling stupid. Like there's not really the course, right? There's nothing that the course is going to do to you. So I think you got to understand what is it you're fearing. And that's usually going to be much more of an internal thing than really something externally that statistics or calculus or algebra is going to do to you. So what is it you're fearing? And I think when you can answer that question to yourself, understand why. Why are you afraid to fail? Why are you afraid to feel stupid? Why are you afraid to struggle, right? And I think the go deeper and deeper into the foundation of why you're having those feelings, the better you can understand how to overcome them. So I just got an algebra 2 in high school. Now I'm in college algebra, and it's whooping my A. What's the difference? Well, a lot of times the pedagogy, the way that the courses are going to be taught, is going to be different. And yes, algebra 2 and college algebra, you would think would be very, very much aligned. To be honest with you, I think I never taught college algebra. I did take it, and I've taught algebra 2 in high school for many years. I think if I was going to say the big difference from my point of view, and again, this could have changed, and it does change between schools and districts and professors and textbooks. But if I was to wrap it up in a nutshell, the difference between algebra 2 in high school and college algebra in college is that algebra 2 in high school takes on a ton of topics, because it's basically like this end all be all course for a high school student. And so what happens is we really kind of get into surface level information in algebra 2. We don't really get far into depth into a lot of the content. It's basically like, learn this, here's what you need to know. Okay, move on to the next topic. And I remember many, many years I was teaching algebra 2. It was basically just a race to finish the curriculum, right? Because then the students had to take a test at the end. And so we were just basically cramming information, moving on, not getting too deep. Just wanted to make sure we could teach what we could teach and then move on to the next topic. I don't think that is a very successful course, or teaching it that way is very successful for our students. And what that allowed, though, is a lot of times if we were, assessing the students, we couldn't really assess them on like having that strong understanding. And then a lot of those students would go to calculus and precalculus, and we'd realize, oh crap, they don't understand the information as well as we thought they did, or as that their grade shows. I think the same thing for college algebra. I remember taking college algebra in college, and I just remember like going really deep into every section, right? Rather than having, let's say, 10 topics, we maybe only got to like, 6 or 8, but we went deep. We did it over and over and like really, really expanded on each section. It wasn't trying to teach everything under the moon, from algebra 1 review to statistics and trig. Like still don't understand why trig is in algebra 2, right? But it felt like in high school, we're just trying to teach everything in algebra 2 and just put it under the umbrella of algebra 2. Whereas college algebra, it goes very, very much more deep. And so if you have a little bit of lack of understanding or strong foundation, college algebra is going to whoop your A. And I think that's what you're kind of getting at from the moment. But, I think just one of the things to overcome is like, you got to put in the work. I know it's a lot, but I think that's one of the best remedies you can do for having success in college algebra. What are your thoughts on AP Precalc? I don't really have, so I left the classroom before AP Precalc was adopted at our school. So I never taught it. And so I don't have any feedback in that regard. I do like the idea of providing students the option of having courses where, especially where they can get AP, college credit. I think that is awesome. And I think we should have more access for students like this. The problem that I'm hearing from people, teachers, is that schools have a very difficult time being able to offer AP Precalc, an honors Precalc, or even like a standard Precalc. So what they're turning to is just AP Precalc. And what that is doing, in my opinion, is also reducing the number of people that are taking precalculus, because now it's just turned to like an advanced course. And so therefore we just have AP Precalc, AP Calc. And like, once you've passed algebra 2, like you're basically just like, if you're not going into the advanced AP courses, then you're kind of just done. Then you're just kind of thrown into like a bottom feeder math class for your like a junior or your senior year. And I still think there should be an opportunity for people that are not necessarily trying to do the AP route that still should have access to information, or still should be able to take those courses. Just a regular AP, or a regular Precalc, a regular calculus class that doesn't have the competition of the, exam at the end and the rigor of those two courses. Because I was a student that didn't take calculus until my sophomore year of college. Like, I wasn't ready for calculus. And that's a lot of students. They're just not ready for a fast-paced college course. But I don't think we should just like not provide them with, an alternative course that's going to strengthen their mathematical aptitude on there. So I haven't spent a lot of time like researching and kind of seeing how this implementation has gone out, but I just don't like, I like the idea that, we should have students that are focused in on like the advanced courses and have them push them and go to that. But I don't like having that being like the only option that students have. I like having more options than less. So I think if schools have to choose between an AP Precalc and a honors Precalc, or just a regular Precalc, and then they just offer AP Precalc, I'm not sure if that's the best for the most amount of students. And that's kind of my concern at the moment. Krem says, I have a very big test in 3 weeks. I've been preparing for it, not exactly sufficiently, for 4 months. How do I seal the deal in those last few days? Some people have been preparing for a year. Wow, this is a really big test. I'm kind of interested to know what this test is about. So I would go back and look at my live streams, how to study for a test in 30 days, how to study for a test in a week, how to study for a cram for a test. I think if you just kind of take all those tools together, that might be something that you can kind of piece together from there. Studying for over a year is a really long time. It's going to be really, really hard to remember that information. I think the sweet spot, obviously you're taking, if you're talking about some kind of like, huge exam, which it does sound like you are, but if like lawyers and, accountants and actuaries, like they have to take these big exams. They do have to study for a long time. But I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to or actually like a legit math test. But I think the main thing is, just like an Olympic swimmer is going to how they kind of taper in for the race, right? You do a lot of work early, consistently, and then you just try to lighten your load a little bit until that big test day. Because I think what a lot of students do is they just try to work harder and harder, cram, and then they just are exhausted the day of the test. And that's not what we want to do. We want to taper down to your test day. So I would put in a lot of work early, get a lot of organization so you have for things, because basically you want to put in a lot of this work and then just kind of slowly move your way down to like reviewing. And like that day before the test should really be like a health day, like where you're just relaxing, calming yourself down and getting ready to perform. Because that's going to be the main thing. If you are not in the right mindset and the right ability to perform, then it doesn't matter how much studying you do. You could still underperform. I'm learning about finding rotation of revolutions per minute given angular speed. Do you need an easy way to do this because it's quite confusing for me? No, but if you have a specific question on there, then feel free to go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I can kind of look at it and kind of see how I could approach the problem for you that way. Just because, what do you do if you're great on homework practice quizzes, but then your instructor tests you different variations that weren't taught? I understand, but I'm failing because of the exams. I think you got to outsmart your teacher, because what your teacher is doing is they're teaching you a concept, they're having you practice it, review it, you're understanding the concept, but then what they're doing is they are testing you to see if you can apply that concept or that process in a different light. I don't think necessarily always it's something that they've like never taught, and here's something randomly I never taught you, now you have to figure it out. More likely than not, it's like, here's what I taught you, can you apply it to this different scenario? And now again, does it accurately always test you on what you know if they taught it under this scenario and then now we're changing things up? Right, that's up for debate. I think that on any test that I gave, I would always try to have like a mixture of those kind of things. But obviously, it's impacting you, right? If you say you're failing your tests, your exams. So I think what you need to do is, is say like, all right, I'm learning this stuff. Like, here's what I'm learning. Here's the problems the teacher is giving you. What are some possible ways that the teacher could kind of trick me? Like, let me make sure I am prepared for this. That is where you can go back through and like look at the back of the book, look at the test, the quizzes in the back of the book. Maybe go online, look for some tricky problems around those concepts. Look for some different ways that the teacher could maybe, possibly could, let's say, use those problems on the test and stuff like that. Because I think sometimes we get in this trap as students where the teacher gives us this homework, we just do the homework, and then we're done. We're like, okay, I understand the concept, I'm good to go. And then, we get this test and we're like, whoa, I understand what's going on, but like, the test isn't like what was on our homework. And you're right. It's a lot of times it's a variation of what you were learning. So I think a good thing you can do is like, look for the harder problems in your textbook sometimes at the end of the chapter, sometimes at the end of the section. You'll find some problems that are like word problems, right? They're variations of what you're learning. That maybe sometimes your teacher doesn't assign, but I think if you can kind of figure those out, I think that one will solidify your understanding, and two, kind of set you up for success for no matter what types of problems your teacher is going to give you. You've already done all this legwork and preparation, and you'll be able to knock it out of the park. What are the basic in algebra? Not sure exactly what you mean with that. Are math classes online or in person better? I think it all depends on who you are. I don't think I could deal with an online class for anything. So I prefer to have everything in person. But I think for a lot of people, they're very busy and they've adapted very well to having, online video or online chat. So I think that's definitely something that, should be something that we should continually offer for the students that it works with. But it's not an end-all solution for all of our educational failures or for people that are always going to find success with online education. I think it's a great tool. It's going to work for some people, but not all. And me being one of those. I don't think I do. Low key isn't too bad, but I heard the first 2 units are kind of the easiest. Is that true? I'm not low key. But yeah, I mean, usually when you're dealing with like limits and like dealing with the derivative, like like any class, you're going to start fairly basic and then you're going to go into it. So, I mean, yeah, I would say the limits and derivative are typically going to be the easiest introduction into your calculus topics. And then you'll get into integration, applications, and then a whole slew of other topics. How hard is high school geometry in general? In general, I would say it's medium hard. Some people just really connect with geometry. Some people like don't make any connections with it. So I think it's really is dependent on the person. But, I think if you have a solid foundation from Algebra 1, that's going to set you up with a good rate of success for geometry. But it's not a direct relationship. Just because you were really good with Algebra 1, a lot of students still struggle with geometry. And some students can do horrible in algebra, but geometry just sticks with them. So it is kind of weird that way. I forgot. Yeah, it's keep on watching the videos or just practicing on your own. Like I think my trigonometric identities playlist I have has like over 100 videos. I mean, to be honest with you, the better you're going to get is the more problems you do. If you're trying to get really good identities. It just comes with having the experience. And the more experience you have by doing more problems, different types of problems, looking at different approaches, I think just the better you're going to get at it. Plain and simple. I do not have any textbook recommendations. Well, thank you, Tim. Good to have you on. Is there any way to make remembering formulas easier? Yeah, I think applying the formulas, like writing them down, actually using them inside of a problem. I think the more you do that, then the easier it is for you to remember them. I don't recommend flashcards or trying to write them down. I mean, I would say write them on your mirror in the morning and at night when you're brushing your teeth, you're going to be seeing them in front of you. I think that's a kind of cool little trick. But in general, I don't advise my students to memorize things or they need to memorize things. I just say apply it, do the work. I guarantee if you do the practice problems I'm asking you to do, you're going to remember these formulas. And I think for most classes, that advice is sufficient, right? Obviously, there's other courses, other tests that you can take where there's a lot more vocabulary and things you need to memorize. But I think for most people, that is a sufficient advice. How's math right the rule and does it correlate with math? I'm not sure what you mean from there. Thanks, JD. I think math, I feel like with math, there's a big difference between just memorizing procedures for different types of questions versus actually understanding the concepts and why those procedures work, for sure. Hey man, just want to say thank you for your video. Such a help. Well, you're very welcome. Logan? I no longer teach inside of a classroom setting. What got you into teaching math? So my mom was actually a high school math teacher. And I mean, she didn't really push me to be inside the profession. I think 3 of my high school math teachers were also my sports coaches. So they were role models to me inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. And so I think they probably paid the biggest impact of me when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, who I wanted to become, what did I want to do for my living. And so that is, so yeah, I think I, looked up to them and saw teaching and coaching as a profession that I wanted to follow in the footsteps of. And so yeah, yes. Well, you're very welcome. How long did it take you to master math? Well, I don't think anybody ever masters math. And, but I will say from going into college, that's after I went, getting a bachelor's in college, that's when I started to actually finally have some confidence of I know what I'm doing. I'm starting to feel more confident that I can take more and more on math. And again, a lot of upper level mathematics kicked my butt, but I think I also just had a little bit more confidence that I could complete things and I could work through things and I could understand things with math. And so that took me getting my bachelor's before I started to feel like I was getting better. I knew what I was talking about mathematically, but by no means a master of math. I think just practice. It just comes down to practice. It's, if you're going to try to remember or memorize rules, it's just never going to work out. You just got to practice going through them, practice doing the rules. And sometimes it's going to take people a lot more practice than others. That's just reality. I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody if it's not sticking with them. Just keep on practicing through it. It's going to start connecting. Thank you for all your videos that help in so many ways. Well, you're very welcome. When it comes to solving quadratics, what method do you feel is easiest to work with? Start to confuse myself with options. So if there's no number in front of the coefficient, I always look to factor it, or no number in front of x squared. I always look to factor it first. And then typically I like to use quadratic formula after that if I know it's not factorable. When there is a number in front, I usually just immediately try to factor it if I can in my head, or just go directly to quadratic formula. I don't really complete the square unless I need to put it in, unless I need to graph it, right? Unless I need to put it in vertex form, I'm not really usually going to bother with completing the square. I usually just try to factor it if I can easily do it. And if I can't, then I just go to quadratic formula. Brennan says, hi, I'm a freshman in high school. For the past year and a half, we are struggling to understand the new concept of math needed to enter college. Are there any videos or site where we could learn? I don't know what topics you're looking for or whatever else, but obviously I have over 12,000 videos on my channel. So maybe there's some videos that help you out from there. But yeah, if you want to maybe let me know more what you're looking for, let me know. They're for your Luffy. It's a new type of math that we didn't learn ourselves. I asked teachers in middle school, but I don't know what new type of math that you were referring to. I am familiar with it. We didn't have an IB at our school, IB curriculum. We had ACE math, so I never had to teach the IB curriculum, but I'm definitely aware of it. It was very, very similar to our ACE curriculum. Hey, Daram. Hi, Miss Willett. I am a sophomore who's currently taking Algebra 2. I intend to take both AP Stats and Calc BC before college. Do you think it's a good idea to double up with precalc and stats next year? At our school, that's what a lot of students did, is they took stats and precalculus in the same year, so therefore they could take Calc AB BC. So I don't think it's right for everybody. I think for some students that can handle the workload, and if that's again the field or the way that you're going over, I think that's fine. If you're just doing it to collect as many like AP credits and all that kind of stuff like that, I might be a little hesitant for you, just because I've seen more students burn out than I've seen students be successful by having a hard schedule. So in the short term, I think sometimes people, it looks really, really good and they feel great about it. But then in the long term, we look back and we're like, why did we work so hard and put in all this work and all this stress, for something that didn't pay off in dividends in that way. But a lot of students that I took, that were in my class did it exactly that way. So I think you can, I think it's definitely something for you. I think the best thing I would do though is speak with your teacher, your guidance counselor, and your parents to make sure you guys are all on the same page. Yeah, you could, but I'd have to, the only way I could pin it is I have to go into my live stream mode. Actually, wait a minute, you might get lucked out. Yeah, but I don't know where you are at. Mine thing's pretty delayed. What is this? Hordage. Yeah, I can only pin on my Google. Actually, I don't even know if I can pin this. Oh, you're talking about pin on the... Oh, I can pin that one. But yes, feel free to go and pin my next video post. I have a lot of videos for that. But any math questions, go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I took my code and got a 76. Okay. Thankfully, there's a retake. Any tips on understanding limits approaching affinity? Yeah, horizontal asymptote. So understand it's the horizontal asymptote and simplifying. How do you simplify those limits? Because I think, you can obviously deal with rational functions. So it's going to be relatively easy. It's usually a review for a lot of students, but then you can get into more complicated ones. So it's just really understanding how to simplify your rational expression. So therefore you can evaluate at infinity. Oh, by the way, I had an idea. And if you're on this chat and you have, any feedback, let me know. But so one thing, just real quick, I'll get to the question in a second. Let me know if you guys would be interested in this, because I read that question on as far as you have a retake. One thing I was looking into doing, so I'm doing some tutoring for some students, private tutoring for free, to have them make a YouTube video that we can eventually kind of show the transformations for you guys, showing their success, having them struggle. And then I am going to be helping them tutor to, either get an A or pass a test or whatever may be the case. But the only problem with that is a lot of time it takes like a long time. I'm probably going to be working with these students for 3 to 6 months before we're going to start seeing some progress, and that's a lot of videos to record as well. And then to kind of condense them down to a video, I'm like, oh man, it's a long time. But one thing I was thinking about was, you can just let me know in the chat, like, hey, this is a good idea. Oh, I definitely would take advantage of this, or I know people would take advantage of this. But one thing I was thinking of is if a student fails a test or gets a bad grade, but you're allowed a retake, then would you allow me to go over the test with you, look at your mistakes, teach you, like coach you, help you learn what you made mistakes on. And then once you do your retake, we did like another video of just like a recap of like everything you got wrong and or seeing if I helped you. Like it'd be like 1 or 2 sessions where we look at your old test and I'd make a video on it. So you'd have to be comfortable like being on camera and talking about this. But basically I would look at what you got wrong. I'd go over some problems for you, teach it to you, teach the information that you need to know, maybe give you some homework to prepare for your upcoming test, and then do another video to see how you did and see, what you did on the test, and then see if I can make you successful in like 1 or 2 video sessions. And then hopefully the goal is to see people go like, I failed it, and then I took the retake and I passed it. Right. So it's a little bit shorter of a turnaround. I just don't know if people would be interested in that. Of course, I think always people like tutoring, like long-term tutoring, because they're getting help consistently. But if somebody would be interested maybe on one of those short-term things, I already got the URL for what I'd like to use. I just don't know if people would be interested in that. If they would actually be like, oh crap, I didn't do well in this test, but my teacher has a retake on Friday, so we have like 2 days to work on it. Would you be able to help me out? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. And I'd do it for free, probably like an hour, 2 hours, work with you and help you understand what you got wrong, maybe give you some advice on what to do for your retake, and then see how you did. So I don't know. Let me know down in the chat if that's a good idea, stupid idea. I'm interested to hear. All right, now I gotta get back to the thing of your videos. No, I took some psychology courses, but I think I have like some human psychology just from like being around people for so long. But as far as technical psychology, no, not at all. I just got my first exam back and static and failed. I know I messed up on the third question, only 3 questions. I would need a private average pass. Should I drop it or what? I would talk to your teacher, talk to your parents, talk to your counselor, see what's going to be the best advice for you. I don't think that's something you want to take outside advice. I don't care who they are. Those are the 3 people I think are going to give you the best understanding of what decision you should make. How do I remember function of trig graphs? Well, you can always refer to the unit circle, right? So whatever angle is, that's the x-axis, or the x point on the x-coordinate, and then whatever the y value is. So the angle, right? So whatever your angle is going to be the value of on the x-axis, and then whatever the point is on the unit circle. So sine is y, cosine is x, sine is y, tangent is y over x. So whatever that coordinate point is, that's going to be the point on the y-axis. And you can kind of see that relationship. Desmos does a great way, has a great ability to show you this visually rather than me trying to explain it from there. But I think just using your unit circle, I've done that quite a bit so I can remember what the shape is. Well, you're welcome, Handler. Get some more videos. I find it hard videos to help me understand what I'm trying to learn math. Any tips for websites or sources you use? No, I think it's just keep on trying until you find the right fit. Once you find the right fit, stick with it. At AAHL content, what is your opinion on that? Oh, I don't have any IB content, so I guess I'd have to get some, or people would have to provide some to me, because like I said, we didn't offer IB inside my school, so I didn't really have access to it. But I wouldn't be opposed to working through some IB problems, but you'd probably have to reach out to me directly and give me some stuff to kind of review. To apply. The easiest way to remember math questions is to apply them, to work through problems multiple times using those formulas. That is how it's going to stick. Early math question about how I balance schools with my extracurriculars. My AP classes are taking way too much of my time. Also, thanks for making all the videos. Yeah, it's difficult. I think you really need to have a discussion with your parents, your counselor, and your teachers of like, what is it you need? What is it you're trying to achieve? I've met way too many students that have just taken on too big of a workload, and not all the classes are really necessary for them. They're just doing it to do it, So maybe dropping down an AP class might free up your time, right? And it's not something that really need, or it's going to move the needle for you. Or maybe some of your extracurriculars, can be adjusted around. Like, I think it's all people dependent on what you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, and what's going to be the best for you. But I can tell you, when you're taking on so much, like not everything's going to have a benefit. So you really want to make sure you can just focus on the most important and not focus on those that are not put as much effort into those that are not the most important. Sorry, to 6. I'm only 5 weeks in NFL. I'm going to fail. Do you have any suggestions? Talk to your teacher. If you don't think it's something that you're going to continue on, drop the class. maybe take it with a different teacher, or take it at a different time. Maybe you just need a little time and break, but speak with your teacher, see what they think, or any suggestions for them for you to kind of improve your grade, or pass. Hi, Coach. I'm studying to become a mechanical engineer, and right now I'm really struggling to actually study the material for Calc 3 and statistics. Any suggestions? I don't know. I mean, if you don't have the motivation to study and do the work, I don't know if it's just that class, or maybe your heart is not in the mechanical engineering field. I don't know. I think that's something you need to answer yourself, or maybe talk it out through with other people. But I think if you really, really want to become a mechanical engineer, and not to say every class is going to be your favorite or something you enjoy, but I think you're going to have a strong motivation to do what is necessary to earn your degree. And if it's not there, then it maybe might be you tell, something from within saying, this isn't 100% what I want to be doing. So I don't know, just some food for thought. I'm not sure if that's correct or not for you. Hey, Spooderman24, thank you so much. Super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, Marcel, do you have any websites you'd recommend for calc practice problems? I'm performing horribly on exams because I have no means of practice for online class. You're awesome, by the way. Thank you so much for a super chat. I just don't have anything. I mean, I think Khan Academy, he has a free resource. There's practice problems on there. One of the more popular ones. To be honest with you, there's just so many great, amazing teachers that post homework, exam preps. I mean, when I was teaching calculus and I needed to find like example problems and everything else, like I would just Google search and there would be amazing teachers that had content out there, detailed explanations. Like, I don't think there's a website or anything else that stands above the rest. There are some amazing teachers, especially since COVID, that post all of their material and it's available for you online to learn from. I think the main thing is like find a couple teachers, preferably like 2 or 3, that have good notes that you understand, you follow, and like have a lot of practice problems for you to use with answers, and then just stick with it. Don't try to overdo it or overthink it. Find some people that you like their teaching, the way that the material is presented and the problems they have, and just run with it. I'm a freshman in high school, currently taking algebra 2. Do you recommend I take AP Calc next semester? I have a 97 overall in class and I want to take some courses. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're feeling comfortable with the material and algebra 2, then, you can take AP Calc as a sophomore. I'm not familiar with the AP curriculum, but I had a lot of sophomores that were in my precalculus class that did fine. But a lot of times the ones that did struggle in AP Calc in precalculus were those sophomores because they didn't have a solid understanding from algebra 2. It looks like you do. So I'm assuming that 97 is not just a fluff grade, but you really have a good understanding of your material. And if so, I don't have a hesitation for you giving precalculus a try sophomore year. Best of luck. Do you have a lot of calc videos? Yes. Just go to my playlist on my channel and you'll see a ton of calculus videos. If you didn't teach math, what do you think you would do instead? I don't know, probably work construction. I mean, I love construction. I love being handy and stuff like that. So yeah, probably construction. What do you think about introducing discrete math in middle high school? In university, and nothing has helped me overall understand math more. I think having an access to discrete math is very, very important. And I think we should be doing more of it in our middle school and high school, like providing students more of a variety of the mathematical topics that we present to them, not just pushing everybody into AP Precalc and AP Calc. But yeah, I don't think it's, I don't know, overall understanding math more, I think. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think just having more access to some discrete mathematics, I think will be beneficial for everybody. And also something that they feel like they can apply more in real life scenarios than sometimes the math that we are teaching. Hi, any tips for math tests? I struggle with rechecking over and over again and run out of time most of the time. It's really hard, and the situation to get a perfect 100 kills me. Yeah, well, getting a perfect 100 every single test is just not a cheat. It's just not it's not something I think you want to strive for. It's just not something you're going to want to try to continue to maintain, because you're right. Once you don't get that 100%, it just puts you in a horrible mood, right? A horrible mindset. So I don't want you to get to that point. I don't want you to feel like that is your carrot, or the only way that you can feel successful is if you get 100. I think what you want to do is study the most you can possibly study to be prepared the best you possibly can be. And just know that, like, all right, I'm going to do my best, and my best is my best, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to learn from them, and then I'm going to move on, and I'm not going to dwell over it. I don't want you to put so much meaning into what you get as a grade that is going to define you or what you're capable of. Okay. So do your best, put in the work hard, but then move on. Okay. Don't be looking back, move on, take on a new challenge. Okay. And you can be successful. I think it depends on the application of the retake. I wouldn't call it cheating per se, but the usefulness of the retake, I think, depends on how it's being applied. Well, I mean, by that point, you're going into like differential equations and the whole calculus series, or depending on, what you're into, some, upper level mathematics courses. So I think it all depends on what track you're going into. But I think once you get into like Calc 3, then a lot of doors open up for you. And it's not so much what I recommend, but where you want to go. What type of math do you want to focus in on? That's where you kind of get, after the calculus series, you get to make those decisions. I taught inside the classroom for 14 years, but I stepped away 3 years ago now. Thank you, Pina. Appreciate that. Well, again, depends on how the retake is. I mean, I never gave my students the exact same test with similar questions. They got a completely different test with completely different questions. So I think it just depends, again, as how that things are being applied. How do you French? I mean, you're going to look at this as difference of two squares. So if you can think about multiplying there, like the difference of two squares, that's how that's going to be done. Yes, please. I love that. Spring house found algebra, then passed with B plus. Once I found you, then A minus. Awesome. Good to hear. This retake thing only exists mostly at public schools because of the lower advantaged communities and special needs. It will be to the advantage. I'll just leave that there. I'm not sure. I'll just leave that there. How do you get a good grade at integrals? It's like one thing I've done. I mean, just practice. It comes into practicing. And actually, no, I'd actually refute this. I don't think it's only happens in public schools. I'm actually familiar with many people in the private schools that have the exact same opportunity and stuff like that for as far as a retake and stuff like that. I mean, even public schools, there's not a lot of public schools that have, retakes or allow retakes or anything like that. So I will agree with you that a lot of education has changed and where it is, I think, watered down. But I wouldn't just say it's in public schools. I would say it's kind of much more across the board in charter schools and magnet schools and private schools, to show that students are being successful. I think there was a study that came out, whereas like the average grade of like a graduate is now like at an 82%, whereas like, I don't know, in the 60s or 70s, I'm not replicating this data, I'm just going off what I remember, was like a 72. And it's like, are people really getting that smarter? No, it's like our standards have changed, right? Now everybody was competing. Now it's changing though now. But for the longest time, everybody was competing, going to college, get scholarships and everything like that. So it was like high pressure to get a good grade, right? And the principals, the superintendents, the teachers, they all felt it, the parents, right? So we kind of had this like inflation of grades to kind of like just pass the buck along to the next teacher. And I think that's one thing that you've kind of seen across the board. But now with kind of like college application softening, or the value of college, softening, I think we're starting to see a little bit of pullback on there. And yeah, I would agree. I would like to see, I mean, I don't have a problem with retakes in a general sense of learning. Again, it all goes into how they're being applied in application. I don't think you're any better than anything else if you have no retake policy or nothing else. Like, it's just a a one and done. I think it's just how the course is taught and how things are being applied is really just kind of makes the difference, if it's going to be beneficial or not. Yes, just memorize the first quadrant, memorize the sign, and then memorize the points that the trig functions relate to. I actually have a video if you just want to search it like memorizing a circle. I go into much more detail there. How do you find the x-intercept when given the quadratic? We'll set y equal to 0 and then factor a quadratic formula or complete the square. What I always like to do is put a circle or a square around the variable I'm trying to solve for, and then typically just use your inverse operations to solve for that variable. So sometimes if you're like, I don't know, then, replace your letters with numbers just so you can remember what inverse operations are, right? Obviously don't simplify them because they're all numbers, but just sometimes use numbers to see, oh, I should be adding or subtracting or whatever may be the case. But yeah, literal equations are just equations with more variables. That's it. Same process as solving an equation. Come on. All right, guys, I got to run through these questions really quickly, so I'm going to skip some. I apologize. Do you think it's better to take calc with college or as an AP course? I'm in dual enrolled, taking AP precalc, but can't decide whether to take AP calc or calc with my college senior year. I think it really depends. Talk to your parents, talk to your guidance counselor, talk to your math teacher. I think those are the three people that you want to, confer with to be able to see what you want to go into, where your kind of strength is with math, and see if it's something that you are capable of and that you can find success with. I don't know yet. Just leaving that open. Awesome, David. How do I be to help? Why does high school math tend to hide how things work until college? I'm not really sure if I understand that or agree fully with that. Going to university, I got a module with a lot of prerequisite level math. I didn't do level math catch up. Would you have advice? I got a module with a lot of prerequisite. I didn't do level math and I need to catch up. I mean, yeah, you got to work through it and maybe kind of spiral review, like do some every single week to kind of keep that stuff that you never learned or forgot fresh. So spiral review every week, plan on doing some of that review stuff. I mean, I still am a licensed realtor and I, do some work on rental properties, but construction stuff, that's about it. In the TI family, TI. I'm not directly for trigonometry. I mean, that's a very broad topic from on there, but I think just practicing problems and asking questions. So what language? I cannot program. I am so happy for you. You don't have to ever take a math class again. And so happy. Congrats. Yeah, if you have a math question, go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. Are you a rugby player? Yes, I played rugby for many, many years. I'm not currently playing. I wonder why you asked that question. Maybe you saw some of my older videos where I had rugby on it. But yeah, I used to play. My body has taken some damage though, so haven't done anything recently. Also, I'm a tutor for high school math, and I was wondering if you had any tips for teaching. Don't get hard on yourself. Every year, you're just like a student trying to learn. All right, you're going to learn things that you like. That you're going to learn things you're going to change. Just every year, try to keep on getting better and better. Every class, try to get better and better. Try to reach your students. Try to, step out of your comfort zone with the teacher and try to improve your instruction. And I think as long as you can have that ability to want to keep on being a better version of yourself and a better teacher, then you're going to find success and you're going to find passion for showing up for work. But I think once you start losing that, that's where it's time for you to get out of the classroom because we don't need teachers like that. And that's one of the reasons why I stepped away from the classroom because I'm like, I'm not benefiting the students the way I should. So I got to get out. Right. So I think you got to have that. You got to have the humility to know when you're making an impact or when you're trying to prove. And again, like there's a lot of times I second guess my ability to be a good math teacher, right? Or to be able to reach my students. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like when you just like, you're like, I don't care to make it a lesson better. I just want to be kind of lazy and things like that. You know, it's like, that's what we want to avoid. We always want to be saying, how can I make these lessons better? How can I reach my students better? How can I help them understand the material better? That's what you want to be focusing on every day, every year. How to graph factor form, vertex form, put it to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. See our calculus course posted through Harvard on their website. Literally goes along with the class I'm currently taking. Awesome. I love that. I have no idea. I mean, there are like arguments in my school previously for retakes not being fair, mostly due to people who have worked so long just for someone to perform worse, retest, and get the same score. Yeah. So I'll do another live stream on my views on retakes because I did it a while ago, but I never made a video on it. And so the way that the curving worked on my score, and I get it. I completely get it. Right. And again, especially if somebody gets at your score or better, and because they did a retake, that feels unfair. 100%. Cannot disagree with you on that. But let me kind of provide you one with the way that my scaling works. One, if you were on my class, I believe I think it could have been like not 10 points more, right? So if somebody like got maybe like 1 mark below you, like if they did the retake, they could overtake your grade, right? But I think more than like 10 points, there's no way that somebody got like a grade level above you that they could get that same or higher grade level, right? So the curve on the retakes was not like you can get all your points back or you can get 100% on the retake. I didn't allow that. It was a scaled version for the retake. In addition to the retake, if you did well on the test, then you were rewarded with, you were done with the test. If you failed the test or you wanted to get a retake, then what I made the students do was, one, they had, I think, to have all of their homework in. They needed to show me that their homework was all completed. So all the homework had to be completed. And then they also had to meet with me to go over their test. So I get it. You'd be like, oh man, these people just get to take a retake and like they're done. But like, no, it's like they had to make sure that they did, they had to like show a lot more work they had to spend a lot more time working with me to be able to get that stuff. And a lot of students wouldn't even take the retake because they didn't want to sit down with me and go over their test. They didn't want me asking them questions of what they didn't understand or why they got the problem wrong. You know, it was just like that embarrassment or that extra time where they're like, I'll just take my grade. You know, it was mostly not for students that got like a B and like, oh, I need to get an A, or I got a C. Oh, I need to get an A. It was mostly for the students that were really, really struggling with the concepts, that were getting Fs, that, you know, or Ds, that really, really needed to understand the information and improve upon it. So therefore they could get a better grade. So that's what, you know, retakes can, I think, be really beneficial for students to understand the material. But, you know, yeah, I totally agree. If it's something that's just people are going to get better grades at, you know, stuff like that, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be a long-term situation for that. All right. To do any proofs or anything that apply in a relationship. That's good. I'm taking college. All right, Ryan. I have to take college at some point. Should I take trigonometry next before precalc or go straight into precalc? I don't really know. We only took precalc and trigonometry was embedded inside of precalc, so I don't know the difference between your two courses of precalc and trigonometry. I would talk to your professor, talk to your guidance counselor, and they could give a better they can give a better explanation of which course you can take. But yeah, I would agree actually with a person taking precalc, because I believe at least precalc is going to have a variety of topics, and trigonometry would probably go more in depth just on the trig. My previous comment about not truly learning things until college. Yeah, I mean, I think we should be exposed to as much learning as possible, you know, at least up to the age of 16. And then after 16 to 18, you know, we should be starting to funnel into different categories a little bit, or at least being a little bit more hyper-focused on where we want to, you know, focus our attention on. But you know, I think we should bring in some more real learning into the high school, you know, setting rather than just expecting people to have to go to college for that. Math questions, go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I'm studying math, and when I learn something new, I forget it after 1 week. What should I do? Don't stop learning it. Keep on spiral reviewing. So if you learn it, do it one day, then maybe 2 days later, review it again. 2 days later, review it again. So that's called a spiral review. You're just constantly spiraling in the work. So once you get into like 8 weeks, you're constantly going back to older stuff you learned. You're just constantly going through the spiral review of everything you're learning. That's how you're going to keep things fresh. And that's how you're going to help yourself review from not forgetting things. Okay, awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for showing up on this live stream. I really appreciate having you guys on and helping, asking your questions. Hopefully, I was able to help you with some of your questions. And I will look forward to giving you guys or seeing you guys next week for the live stream. All right, cheers.